So, over the past few weeks, the entire Jujutsu Kaisen community has collectively been taken on an absolutely crazy rollercoaster ride. What Father Gege decided to do had the Twitter flock mewing, creating fringe theories, and desperately trying to precisely track down his location so they could suck the truth out of him. Of course, spoilers for the manga if you don't even know what I'm talking about, but 24 chapters after he was last seen, and while Yuji, with his hands sunk into Sukuna's chest, prepared himself for the activation of the king's domain, Sukuna noticed something out of the corner of his eye. Looking over at the smoky land next to him, what then befell the King of Curses and made its way through the smoke was the vision of a man he had cut down with his own hands, the departed spirit of the strongest. Now, and feeling like Sukuna's back is pressed up against a wall, Yuji, while thinking about Choso, vows to crush his heart and win. Stopping still though, he listens as Sukuna rattles off the activation for his domain expansion. A fraction of a second later, Sukuna again snaps his head towards a figure making his way through the smoke. Now emerging from the other side of the furnace's devastation, Sukuna sees the one and only Gojo, something he assumed was impossible. With a gush of wind though, it's revealed that indeed this isn't Gojo, but someone else who's taking control of his corpse using Kenjaku's body swapping technique. Sukuna is shocked to see this, but begins laughing, apologizing and saying that he underestimated him. Shoving Yuji back and approaching Gojo, he screams that he never thought Yuta was capable of going this far. To explain all of this, we fall back in time here, probably, obviously during that month of training that we had and skipped over and didn't get any of this. There, Yuta first discussed the idea of swapping bodies with several of his mates. Maki and Hikari quickly objected to the idea. However, Hikari does say if they're all wiped out and there isn't another option, he's got to do what he has to do. Scratching his noggin, Panda explains the supposed plan for if Gojo does die. To start with, Rika will eat Kenjaku and copy his body swapping curse technique. Yuta would then use this technique to hop into Gojo's body and re-enter the fight, raising their chance of victory. Kusakabe, instead of, swallowing Kenjaku, suggests Yuta use Gojo's body and copy his limitless curse technique, but Shoko points out that he can't use the ability without the 6 eyes. Also, when it comes to copying the 6 eyes, he's unable to do that as they're a physical attribute, not a technique. Maki then points out that Yuta can only use his copy curse technique while Rika is fully manifested, which is capped at 5 minutes. She questions what will happen when that time ends, prompting Yuta to say he really doesn't know. Squeezing her gossy into the conversation though, Mei drops the likelihood that there are 3 possible outcomes. Firstly, Kenjaku's ability requires constant activation. If this happens, the body and soul won't be able to be maintained and Yuta will die. The second is that Kenjaku's ability will need to be activated intermittently. If this is the case, he won't die straight away, but it's only a matter of time. Third and final is Kenjaku's ability only needs to be activated once, and even after Rika's 5 minutes is up, he'll still be able to use Gojo's limitless technique in his new body. For the third to work though, they'll actually need to dispose of Yuta's original body as he'll forever remain in Gojo's from then on. Yuta says he isn't against this as a final option, as even if Rika isn't fully manifested, he'll be able to use his copy ability inside of his own domain and would like to try it first before taking Gojo's body. Scowling, Maki tells him to quit talking like it's already settled, as she doesn't really like the plan at all. Yuta interrupts though, saying he's getting angry about this. From his perspective, no matter how they look at it, his plan is what they should do. Kusakabe counters that he's right as far as the plan goes, but their concern is what happens to him as a person. Getting annoyed himself, Yuta questions what he means by as a person. Fixing his gaze on the duo, he reiterates that they're going against history's strongest sorcerer. If throwing away their humanity gives them a shot at winning, that's the least they can do for victory. He questions if becoming a monster frightens everyone that badly, to which Maki says he's extremely important to all of them. Pissed now, Yuta screams out asking them, what about Gojo? Isn't he important? They've always pushed the burden of being a monster onto him alone. If Gojo goes and dies, then one of them will need to take that spot, and if no one else steps up, then he will. Later on, Yuta, still probably a little irked over the earlier conversation, asked Gojo to take over his body if he passed, to which Gojo says he doesn't care, since he doesn't plan on losing. He hilariously adds that what truly upsets him is the fact that Shoko didn't object at all. Having calmed down a little bit now, Yuta relayed to Gojo about how Uro told him he's a Fujiwara descendant, whereas Gojo told him he was a Sugawara descendant. Surprised, Gojo says that, well, he is a Sugawara descendant as he can tell they're distant relatives. Plus he questions that, the Fujiwaras and Sugawaras were on bad terms. Not too sure even like himself about this, Yuta says Uru may have just been confused. However, Gojo poses the idea that maybe both of them were right. Glancing at his student, he guesses that Yuta may have been even more blessed than him, and it'd be extremely lame if he didn't capitalize on it. First things first though, he reminds Yuta to take care of his sloppy curse energy control. Honestly, that there is kinda cute from Dajo. I wonder if we'll ever see more of him being, a so-called teacher and doing more of this in a few flashbacks with, like, perhaps Yuji. I know like he didn't really swap with Yuji, but it would be nice to see him in that 19 days or that month period just teaching Yuji a few more things before he goes off and passes on. Anyways, Gojo, after bumping into Maki, Panda and Inumaki, tells the group that they can all head back now, but they refuse. If you guys haven't realized where bro's actually headed, well, I think he's about to deal with a few of those so-called higher-ups. Now when he can't order them to leave, Gojo says he'd rather they didn't witness something so gruesome, especially the fact he's not even sure this is the correct thing to do. However, even if he loses against Sukuna, Gakuganji will be in charge after he blasts everyone in this room, which, is probably a plus to him and adds even more credence that bro's about to eliminate the higher-ups. Again, Gojo looks back and tells them to leave once more, but they reject this, with Yuta asking them to not bear the burden of being a monster alone anymore. Leaving his 4 second-year students behind, Gojo enters the room alone. He knows that nothing can be done about him being a monster, since he was left in the dust back in the past and needs to catch back up to his boy. Obviously referring to how Suguru went mad and took out all the monsters, and now it's Gojo's turn to do the exact same thing. Skipping forwards again to the time Rin demonstrated his curse technique to Yuji and others, he explains that he amplifies the sugar in his body and manifests it externally in some way. As a side effect though, he tends to get lightheaded when using it due to his blood sugar dropping. Having a spark of genius, Shogo asks if he thinks he could transfer the sugar directly into others, to which Rin guesses is likely possible. Happy, she then designates him as a medical team member alongside herself and Nita. His role is pretty simple, as all he needs to do is administer sugar to the brain during technique activation. Moving back to the current day, and in the moments after Yuta had been rushed back to Shoko, Nita and Rin leaned over his operating table. Nita emphasized to the others around him that his technique has stopped Yuta's wounds from getting worse, but adds that he can't heal people. Furthermore, he says it's just like with Gojo, the wound is way beyond the capabilities of his reverse curse technique. Pretty much, this cements the death of Yuta's original body, and means if Kenjaku's ability needs to be activated more than once for Yuta inside of, Gojo's body and everything, after the 5 minutes that Rika is allowed to be out comes to an end, Yuta will sadly die. Looking over at Shoko, a wounded Yuta tells her he's maintaining his consciousness thanks to Rika, but even with that, he's reaching his limits. Having removed her face mask, Shoko lets him know Gojo's body has been stitched up, but once Yuta swaps, he would need to use a maximum output reverse curse technique to finish the treatment. Acknowledging this, Yuta looks down at his ring and apologizes to Rika for moving it to his right hand. Instantly flashing back to the present though, both Sukuna and Yuta simultaneously activate their domain expansions. Standing opposite each other and having thrown up identical gang signs, everyone wonders how one even counters Sukuna's open barrier type domain. Will it be through the hands of Gojo that the solution is revealed again? In a flash, both Unlimited Void and Malevolent Shrine clash. From the outside, it's shown that Yuta, like Gojo, managed to expand his domain over Sukuna's, then shrink its size down drastically. From inside the domain, Yuta relays how Gojo originally worked out a countermeasure against Sukuna's domain, called a Shrunken Barrier. For exactly 3 minutes, it's possible to withstand the effects of Malevolent Shrine beating down on the barrier from the outside. He's sure his switch training with Gojo allowed him to elevate his barrier techniques, and with Sukuna's current fatigue taken into account, he thinks he'll be able to maintain the domain for 3 minutes, like Gojo did. Sadly though, and I don't even know why bro thought this was gonna work. After all, Sukuna was able to rid himself of Yuta's own previously imposed 99-second time limit by restricting his domain's effective range to the outer line of Yuta's domain. Facing him down though, Yuta resolves himself to deal enough damage to Sukuna within the next 3 minutes that he drops his domain. On the other hand, Sukuna smiling notes that he doesn't need 3 minutes. Instead, he'll destroy Unlimited Void and expand his effective range to slaughter everyone. Locking in, Yuta goes to use blue to attack Sukuna, but the king instant transmissions all up in our boy's face. Then, using his mangled arm, Sukuna holds Yuta in place and begins landing a fast succession of punches to his face. Stunned, Yuta comes to realize that Sukuna bypasses infinity with domain amplification, even though he'd already activated his domain. Smug, Sukuna knew all along that since Mei's crows couldn't enter the domain in his battle with Gojo, they wouldn't have seen him use domain amplification alongside domain expansion. Well, looks like Yuta or Yugo got murked off screen in fine Gege fashion here, as the next thing we end up seeing is Rika in tears while tightly gripping Yuta's body in her arms. Weirdly, she's still fully manifested, and that's Yuta's body she's holding, not Gojo or not Yuta in Gojo's body. So either Yuta is still alive and is about to visit the Shadow Realm, or has already passed on and it's only a matter of time before Rika also vanishes. And plus, like, they were meant to dispose of Yuta's body if, like, the third outcome was the, you know, like, the best possible. I don't know. It wasn't Yuta's body meant to be disposed of is pretty much what I'm saying. Like, why is it still there? Doesn't that mean Yuta pretty much has 5 minutes and he's dead? He's done. Which is really sad in my eyes either way. But anyways, if you guys have enjoyed the video and want to see more stuff just like this, then do be sure to leave a like and subscribe. For those wondering about like Kusakabe versus Sukuna, Miguel, and even Todo versus Sukuna as well, well, those fights are tiny in comparison to like some of the other ones and stuff, and I'd rather wait to like release them in the full Shinjuku Showdown arc video once this fight comes to an end. We are going on break for like 3 weeks or so now since Gege is sick. Hope man gets better soon, so in the meantime do be sure to look out for my Neo Heroes video, which I've started editing, so that should be out in like a week and a half or so, and a 6-hour plus long video covering the entire One Punch Man story. Might even be longer than that, it just depends like how long it takes me to cover the stuff that's already in the anime. Finally, feel free to check out the Patreon and get early access to content for as little as like $2 a month. Or to just support me even more, as the longer vids take, you know, months in preparation to get done. Either way, enough of me rambling on as per usual. For now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.